Welcome back, this is part 2 of the Valais Blacknose sheep tutorial. If you've joined me from part 1, then you'll have your armature ready to go. So in this video we're going to be bulking up the body, building shapes and creating the head in preparation for adding the top coat and the final touches. So in this video I'm going to be using some core wool, and this is from Simply Felting. I'll add a link in the description in case you want to purchase some for yourself. So to get started, I'm just going to take a strip of core wool and begin wrapping it nice and tightly around the armature. Wrap it nice and tightly, and then it requires a lot less felting and it helps to keep it all nice and firm and secure. So I usually start at the head and work my way down the neck and then around the body. I'm just going to felt that just to keep it in place a little. I'm going to add some more wool. This time I'm going to place it just behind the shoulders and bring it around the front of the shoulder, around the body, and then up across the other shoulder. And I'm just going to continue wrapping this around the body. And again, just going to gently felt it to keep it in place. I'm now going to use some thinner, smaller strips of core wool and start wrapping the legs. I'm going to do this one really tight so it keeps the legs nice and thin. All the way down, and if there's any left over, just wrap it back up towards the top of the leg. So I'm just going to do the same again for all 4 legs. I'm going to start bulking up the body of the sheep. I'm going to start with the belly. So I'm just going to take some more core wool and just stretch it out a bit. Then I'm going to gently wrap this around my finger. I'm not doing it tightly, just enough so that the wool kind of grips to itself, and then just twist it around and it grips nice and firmly. So you should then be able to just pull it off and have a nice sausage shape ready to add some bulk. So I'm going to stretch this piece out, place it along the belly and bring it up between the front legs. And then I'm just going to felt this on, just so it keeps its shape. So to start bulking out the legs, I'm going to take a thin strip of core wool and I'm going to start wrapping here. I'm only going to do 1 or 2 wraps, and then I'm going to jump to the top section of the leg, and then I'm going to keep going back and forth between these two, and it just adds a little bit of bulk in this area. So start wrapping just once or twice and then jump to the top section. Wrap around and then back down to the bottom. Wrap and then jump again to the top and wrap and again back down to the bottom. Then just keep going until you've reached a shape or a thickness that you feel is right for your sheep. So I'm quite happy with this amount of bulking for now. We will be adding some more bulk to the front of the leg and building it around. So I feel like this is just enough so that it's not going to be too thick or too thin. So I'm going to do the same again on the other back leg. So we're now going to give the sheep a little butt. So take a chunk of core wool and roll it up into a nice little sausage and then felt straight down the middle. Then I'm just going to gently pull this apart a little, just so that it's a little bit thinner here, and felt that down again. And then I'm going to place it over the back legs with the centre lining up with the tail. And these edge pieces here are going to get folded around and just felted in. And so just keep felting that until you're happy with the shape. So now we're going to create the second layer of bulk, and I do this part in 2 sections. One that'll create the chest, and then the second section will create the belly and then up towards the back end. So I'm going to take some more core wool, and same as before, I'm just going to gently wrap that around my finger. Twist it on just so it's nice and secure, and then pull off. Give it a couple of felts just so that it holds its shape. And then this piece is going to get placed across the front legs and brought through the front legs and felted towards the centre of the stomach. I want the chest to come just below this fold here, so I'm just going to felt that all in so it's nice and firm, and then we'll move on to adding the second section. So now that I've finished felting the chest, as you can see it comes just below the bend and it's been felted nice and firm. So now I'm going to make the second section, which will run from the belly and up between the back legs. So same as before, I'm just going to wrap the wool around my finger, felt it down, and this time I'm going to place it starting at the belly and bring it up through the back legs and then just felt that down too. Now that the second layer is being added, we're going to work on the back legs and just giving them a little bit more shape. So to do this, I'm just going to take some more core wool, felt it straight across the centre, and then we're going to turn this into a triangular shape. So I'm just going to felt and mark out 2 lines and then fold over the edges and felt them down as well. As you can see on the back legs, the leg goes straight up and then it folds and bends here. So the point of the triangle is going to go on this fold and it's going to go up in a diagonal direction. So take the point of the triangle, place it on the fold, and the triangle is going to go up diagonally. So I'm just going to felt this on just to keep it in place. And you'll see there's a bit of excess at either side. So at the back, this is going to get pulled around and felted in. Pulled around and felt on. And then with the excess on the front, I'm just going to tuck this little bit underneath and felt that down again. And just keep felting until it's nice and firm. And so once that's been felted to a point you're happy with, just repeat the same on the other back leg. So once both back legs have been felted, it's time to move on to the front legs. And to start with, I'm going to take a nice thin strip of core wool. And now the bottom section of the leg, I'm going to leave as it is for now. I'm going to start here on this bend. So I'm going to place the wool and wrap up towards the top of the leg. And then you'll reach a point here where you can no longer wrap. So at this point, I'm going to roll up the rest of the wool, gently stretch it out and felt that into place. And then this is going to bulk out the front leg and start creating the shoulder. So just adding that little bit of bulk onto the arm really does make a big difference. So just repeat the same process on the other side and then we'll be ready to move on to the next step. So for the next step, we're going to create some more bulk on the shoulders. So I'm just going to take a small section of core wool, just a small chunk, and start folding it up. And same as before, I'm going to felt this straight down the centre. Just give it a little pull to make sure the centre line is nice and thin, and just felt over again. And then this centre line is going to get lined up in between the shoulders. So I'm just going to felt that on nice and secure. And then either side is going to get folded over and felted in to create the shape of the shoulders and just to add that bit more bulk. So I'm just going to start felting this and keep felting and shaping until you're happy with the final shape. So both shoulders have now been padded out. So next I want to add a bit more padding to the back end here, just make it more nice and smooth. So again, taking a chunk of core wool and I'm just going to fold it up and felt. And just gently pull it apart just to loosen it up a little bit. And then this is going to get placed over the back end and just felted on. So it's now looking all nice and smooth. So we're going to bulk up the belly, make him a little bit chubbier. So I'm just going to take some core wool and then I'm going to roll it up into a nice big chunk. A few felts to hold its shape, and then I'm going to place this in between both the front and the back legs. So felt that on. And then I'm going to angle the needle upwards towards the spine as I'm felting this in, and it's going to give a nice smooth curved edge as I'm felting it. And then flip it over and do the same for the belly. And then just keep felting around until it's nice and firm. And so repeat this again on the other side. And that is the main part of the body finished. So next we're going to be working on the hooves. I've already done this one just so you can see the difference. So we're going to be making it a bit more bulky and giving it some more shape. So to do this, I'm just taking a small section of black merino and I'm going to fold up one side, but I'm going to leave a few stray hairs just at the bottom. So I'm going to felt the side down that I've just folded up. You should have something that looks like this. A nice thick section and a very thin wispy section. So I'm just going to place the pink sheet over just so you can see a little bit better what I'm doing. Because of course working with black wool over a black mat can be a little bit difficult to see. So what we're going to do, the thick section is going to get placed over the back of the hoof, and we're going to felt it straight down the centre in between the gap. And then flip it over, and we're going to fold either side and again felt it into the gap. And then we're going to keep felting and pushing all the wool towards the back of the hoof. And you'll see the wispy edge here. I'm just going to fold that and wrap it around, and then felt that in as well. And once all the wool is towards the back of the hoof, we're going to start shaping. So we want it to be a square shape, so we're going to felt down towards the bottom of the hoof, just pushing all the wool down and keeping it all at the back. And just keep felting until you achieve a shape that you're happy with. I'm just going to keep felting in between the gap as well, just to keep the two front sections prominent. Keep felting towards the back, and then we'll get that nice square shape that we're after. It can be a little bit fiddly, this part, and a little tricky to do, but it's all worth it in the end. Just felting down the top to make sure it's nice and level with the bottom of the foot. And just keep shaping. So that's how I make the hooves. As I said, it can be a little tricky to do, but it's all worth it in the end when you have your own finished sheep. So continue doing this for all 4 hooves, and then we'll move on to the next section. So thankfully the next step is nice and simple. We're just going to be thickening up the bottoms of the legs. So there are 2 methods you can use to do this. The first one is just wrapping the legs with wool as we did before. Or the second method, which is my preferred method, I'm going to felt a small sheet of wool onto the mat, and I'm going to then wrap that around the leg, and I just prefer this one because it gives a nice smoother finish. So the wool I'm using is Merino, and it's a slightly off-white colour that I've blended to match the locks that I'll be putting on the sheep. So I'm just going to lay that out across the mat and measure it up with one of the legs just to make sure I've got the right sort of length, and then we're going to felt it down. It doesn't have to be perfect, just enough so that it holds together when you lift it up. And then gently pull that off the mat, and then we're going to felt this onto the leg. So I'm just going to place that over the leg. I'm just going to do a couple of felts just to make sure it's nice and secure, ready to start wrapping. And then simply just wrap it up around the leg. and then felt that into place. And just keep felting that until it's nice and tight, and then continue again for all 4 of the legs. So now we're going to be adding some more of the same colour wool to the lower half of the sheep, along the belly, the back end and the chest. And I just do this because it just helps to blend it in a little bit better once you've added the locks on top. So using the same colour as before, I'm just going to use the same method by felting it onto the mat and then felting it onto the sheep. So I'm just going to gently lift that off, and I'm going to start by placing it on the back end first, the chest next, and then the belly last. So just place that over, felt it on and bring it through the legs. And then we're just going to keep felting and adding more wool until the entire lower half is covered in wool. So now that the body's prepped, I can see that I want to add a little bit more bulk to the neck and just a little bit more towards the back of the head. So I'm going to take some of the same core wool that I was using before, and I'm going to start wrapping around the centre of the head, towards the back and down the neck. Not too much, just a little bit, just to add that little bit more bulk to it, and felt that on. So the next step is going to be working on the eyes, and because this is an animal with sideways facing eyes, I will be doing those first, whereas if this was an animal with forward facing eyes, I always add a little cushion around the back of the head and then I work the eyes into it. But as I said, this is an animal that has sideways facing eyes, so we're going to be working on those now. and I'm just taking some, this is a dark grey Merino. Just take a small chunk and I'm going to roll it up into a little ball. Just give it a few felts just so that it holds its shape. And I'm going to felt this on approximately halfway down the head. So I just felt that around. So what we can do then is use a finer needle, and this is just going to help really firm it up without changing the shape too much. So I'm just going to keep felting until that's nice and firm, and then I'm going to repeat the same steps and create another eye on this side. And you should then have something that looks like this. So now we're going to work on the bottom jaw. So I'm going to take some dark merino, so I've got a nice small chunk. I'm just going to place that on the mat and felt straight across the centre. Then using my thumb as a guide, I'm going to felt a triangle shape. So I'm going to place my thumb along the centre line and just felt around the edges to create a triangle shape. So I'm going to fold over the edges and felt them on as well. And then this shape will be used for the bottom jaw. So the tip of the triangle is going to get placed towards the front, towards the nose, and the sides of the triangle are going to come around the back and curve towards the back of the head. So I'm going to flip him over, place the tip towards the nose, and just felt that into place. And bring the edges up towards the back of the head. And again, just felt those down. So now I'm going to lightly felt either side just to keep it all in place. To make the nose, we're going to take another small chunk of the same wool and again felt it across the centre . And again I'm going to use my thumb, but this time I want to make it a little bit wider and less pointed at the end. So I'm going to felt as if I'm making a triangle and then just curve it in instead of doing it as a straight point. So felt along and then curve towards the centre. And again, felt along, curve towards the centre. So like before, fold over these edges and felt them in as well. So this time it's going to get placed on top of the head with the pointed end towards the nose. I'm just going to felt that down the centre to keep it in place. and I'm going to flip him over, and where it hangs here I'm going to tuck that in and felt it into the bottom jaw. To start shaping the nose, I'm going to felt up and then felt 2 lines to start creating a triangle shape. So felt up and then mark out a triangle, and this is going to start forming the nose. So the bits that are overhanging either side are going to get felted in to the bottom jaw. And just keep felting over that triangle you've made and felting around, and this is going to start shaping the nose. So once you've done that, flip it over and felt down the sides, pushing down to free the eyes. And flip over again, felt down the side, and push the wool down to free the eye. Now that we have the basic shape of the nose formed, I'm going to keep felting around just to really firm it up and get that triangle nice and prominent. So I'm going to felt around, just really shaping and firming it up. As you felt in the nose, this is the time to sort of pull and adjust the bottom jaw if needed. So I'm just going to pull mine out very slightly because I want it to be a little bit more prominent here, and then I'm going to felt it down just so it's a bit more slim. And I'm going to felt in a little smile, and same again on the other side. So he's now got a little nose and mouth. It's a little bit difficult to see on camera, but it's basically a little triangular nose, comes down and curves round into a mouth. So now we're going to give him some cheeks, and I'm going to take some more of the same coloured merino, and I'm just going to roll it up into a little sausage shape and just felt that down. Then we're going to take this little shape, and you'll notice that one end is usually slightly more thinner than the other. So I'm just going to pull a little bit more off of the thinner end, and the finer end is going to get placed towards the nose. And then we're just going to felt that into place. And the thicker end is going to curve round over the eye and to the back of the head. And again, just felt that into place. Now what we're going to do is start felting this down. Don't worry too much about felting it over the eye, just felt more around the eye, and then this bit gets left nice and loose, ready to adjust it if needs be later. So I'm going to felt this in, focusing mainly around the eyes. And under the chin. I'm just going to keep felting it down until it's nice and secure. Again, leaving the top part closer to the eye a little bit more loose, but felting everything else down nice and tight. So now that's all felted on, I'm just going to show you, hopefully it's going to focus, but this part, still nice and loose, but as you can see the cheek comes around halfway up the eye. So I'm going to repeat this again on this side. So once that's done, we're going to start working on the top of the head. So I'm going to take some more merino. This is a slightly smaller chunk than the piece we just used for the cheeks. And again, I'm going to roll it up, but this time I want to keep it nice and thin. So roll up into a little sausage and felt down. Then we have a nice thin sausage ready to create the top eyelids. Just like before, I'm going to find the slightly finer end and pull the very end piece off. And then the end we've just pulled off is going to get placed again towards the nose, and we're going to place it over the eye so that it completely covers the rest of the eye that's exposed. And then felt that on. And bring it around and felt at the back. So we have this sort of harsh edge here where we've just folded it over. So what I'm going to do is gently pick at it just to loosen up some of the fibres, and I'm going to felt this down diagonally towards the centre of the cheek, just on the back side of the eyelid. So just felting that in to give it a nice smooth blend, while leaving the top part nice and loose. And it's now that we can start shaping the eyes. Because we left the section of the cheek around the eye nice and loose, it means then that we can pull that down to expose the eye, and then just felt that down, and then we can use this to start opening up and shaping the eye. So just keep felting until you've reached a shape that you're happy with. And if it's too big, you can felt it in again. Or if you want to make it bigger, just push the edges out again. So just keep playing about with it until you're happy with the shape that you've achieved. And as always, once you've achieved a shape that you're happy with, repeat on the other side. So we're now going to add some detail into the eye. So I'm taking a very small piece of black merino and I'm going to place this across the eye and just felt that in a nice straight line. I'll just zoom that in so you can see a little better. So this time, using a very tiny strip of white merino, I'm going to felt this along the bottom of the eye and just slightly bring it up towards the back, just so that it adds a little bit more definition to the eye and helps it to stand out with it all being dark wool. So I'm going to use a very, very tiny strip and just begin felting that on all the way around the bottom of the eye and up towards the back. So I'm now going to add a catch light using a very, very tiny dot of the white merino and just placing it on the eye and felting it in. This just really helps bring the eye to life and add a bit more detail. So have a play about with this, try different placements just to see which you prefer, and then repeat the same again on the second eye. And so with both eyes now detailed, this is our sheep ready for the top coat and the final pieces. So this is the end of part 2. In the next video we'll be creating the horns, the ears, the final coat and all the extra details with all the fluff. So thank you again for watching.